Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to episode 201 of Gun Guy Radio. This is a podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Jake Challen. This is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. Well, we have a great panel this week on the brand new revitalized Gun Guy Radio. We have Billy Johnson of Boxer Tactical and Admits the Noise. Hey, Billy.
Hey, Jake. How you doing?
I'm great. And we have John Patton of the Gun Collective and Patton Media Consulting. Hey, John.
Jake, how are you, buddy?
Good. It's a new recording on Monday's schedule for Gun Guy Radio. We're kind of relaunching this brand, kind of gearing it more for the newer gun guy, gun gal, cover some, a little more basic, but yet also very sought-after topics.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You know, we've seen a massive rise in newer shooters and a lot of people asking those type of questions, so it's might as well answer them, right? You know, might as well give some experience and some opinion behind them. Absolutely.
Amazon, you can support this program by shopping our Amazon affiliate link. Click on firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. You can bookmark that or click on any of the affiliate links in the show notes, which will be at firearmsradio.tv. So let's do a little week in review. Did you guys do anything in guns this week? John?
Did I do anything? Last week, I was in West Virginia filming with one of my clients. We were filming some ammunition videos. That was probably the last gun thing I did besides putting out TGC News today. You know, I do that on Mondays as well, so that happened. You should go watch that. If you're not familiar with TGC News or the Gun Collective, you should go watch that. But that's pretty much it.
Shameless plug.
It's always shameful plugs.
Very cool. Billy, how about you? What have you been up to?
Last week I spent all week out at our manufacturing facility in Arizona, and it was actually one of those weeks to where I got to spend a lot of money and get a lot of gear in-house so I could hook it all up to our belts and test it and make sure it works. So wasn't spending the week shooting any guns, but I was spending the week sliding lots of accessories on and off of the belts. So it was very exciting, Jake.
Will it work with my high point drop leg holster? That's all I need to know.
I didn't buy that one.
Rats. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I guess that there are a lot of considerations there as a tactical belt maker to see what interfaces with your belt you're making people.
Well, and it's funny because I was really on the hunt for some ITW fast mags, and the AR-15 magazine, you can call them pouches, but they're polymer. And I went into 4 different gun stores in Phoenix, and I said, do you have any ITW fast mags? And they all looked at me and they go, no, but we got mag pulls. And I go, no, it's not a magazine. It's a pouch. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, we don't have any of those. So now that we're talking about purchasing your first gun, I think it's a poignant moment when I realized that I was asking these people about products that they didn't know anything about.
Let's talk a little bit about Patriot Patch Company. We have Dangerous to Go Alone T-shirts in stock now. So if you're at all an 8-bit video gamer of the 80s and played Legend of Zelda, you'll totally get this reference. Dangerous to Go Alone T-shirts at patriotpatch.co.
And if you're watching live, you can see it right on Jake's head.
Oh, yeah, I have a patch on my head with the T-shirt, but yeah.
Yeah, he's wearing the T-shirt, the do-rag.
So let's get into the main topic. Like I said, we're kind of changing the format of Gun Guy Radio. We're going to try to keep these shows short to like 20 minutes, a half hour. We'll see how good we can be at that time limit because all three of us are from This Week in Guns, which goes on most of Thursday and all of Friday sometimes. So we're going to talk about this week someone that has the question or has the intention, I want to buy my first gun. So what comes to mind? Go with you first, John, when someone says, I want to buy my first gun.
My first thought is that's awesome. I'm excited about that. I love hearing that people want to experience a little bit of freedom in their lives. You know, they could. There's a lot of different reasons why people want to get guns. You know, especially nowadays, people feel like they have to protect themselves from whatever, you know, if it's nefarious characters on the street or if it's the government or some other thing, or they just want to try it out. You know, they just want to get into it and understand why people like guns. But the first thought is always like, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that you want to try it out and give it a shot rather than just commentate from the fence. You know, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, you know, some of the basics here, like things to consider first. You know, Billy, when someone says, you know, I'm thinking about buying my first gun, you know, I don't even know where to start. What comes to mind?
Well, you know, going back to when I bought my first gun was actually when YouTube was just coming about, so there wasn't a lot of content out there. Now, I think there's such an opportunity for people to get some basic knowledge and education going online and learning the basics. And if, you know, someone like me, like I'm someone that I have to understand how things work when I'm going to get into them. Like I'm very curious about, I don't understand how this works. Everything I had known about guns at that point was from Hollywood. And I lived in Los Angeles at the time. So basically I found a gun shop that had a class. And it was like a 4-hour class. I went down and took the class. And then you got to go out on the range and you got to try a bunch of different guns. And I thought that was a great, you know, learning experience and an opportunity to get hands-on a lot of different types of firearms. But I think, you know, I think when people are curious, the first thing to do is to try to get a basic knowledge about firearms, how they operate, how to handle them safely. I think get that basic knowledge before you even go to the gun store. So you're at least starting at some level. And it's so easy to get that knowledge now with the internet. But remember, not all content is good content when it comes to guns.
That's the truth, man.
I like what you said there. Get some basic knowledge of you know, firearms handling maybe before you even go to the gun shop, because you know I can see a lot of people, you know, getting there and being like, you know holding it like it's a foreign object, and they're just, you know, they don't even know what to look at or how to manipulate it, how to pull the slide back, or, you know, any of that stuff. It's just like.
Well, I think even before that though too, Jake, one thing to think about, and it might not, you know, Sure, I've been around firearms now for, about maybe 9 years. So not a long period of time. It was definitely my adult life. I wasn't around them as a child. So one thing you have to understand, people that haven't grown up around guns or haven't been around guns, sometimes there's an anxiety of just that person walking into a gun store, right? It's a foreign place to them. They've never been in one. All they might know about those items are that they're used to kill people or murder or something, right? Like they have a kind of a bad reputation in mainstream media. And so these people might have a certain level of anxiety coming into the store. And I think as gun people and being around guns, and, you know, all of us have for a while now, we've lost that anxiety. You know, I don't walk in a gun store and I just see hunks of steel. That's all I see anymore. You know, I'm just like, it's just a tool. But I would say, as my experience, you know, like 9 years ago walking in a store, I would say I did have some level of anxiety. It was just because it was something new to me and I didn't understand. I wasn't terrified of it, but I just didn't understand it. And, you know, how to overcome that, I don't know. It's just something that just kind of popped in my head now, but I think it's something that we need to think about.
You know, I think the responsibility there, from my experience selling guns in the past, it's up to the person on the other side of the counter to kind of calm you. If you walk into a gun store and that person is a jerk for whatever reason, the person selling guns is a jerk, you're going to hate it. You may not even want to go to another gun store. So it's up to the people out there that are selling guns to make sure that you get a great experience and get kind of eased into it. Because there's a lot of information out there. It's a lot to take in, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. When I first bought a gun, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was thanks to some guiding forces that eventually I did learn. And you could even just ask your friends. There are so many people out there that are a wealth of knowledge and can really help guide you. And a lot of it is you're also going to have to help yourself. There's a lot of self-education when it comes to firearms, because the ultimate experience and what you're doing with the firearm is you. It's you and the firearm. That's it. There is no secondary person there, and I think a lot of people get really, really influenced by their friends and only by stuff their friends like, and it's kind of that group mentality. But the reality of the situation is that it is just you. So you have got to find what fits you, what you really like, and not stray away from that too much.
So I put some bullet points in here under things to consider first. I put purpose, your mental state, try before you buy, and safe storage. I think Billy already mentioned try before you buy. We haven't really covered purpose.
Well, I think, I'll jump in on purpose. I mean, there's obviously lots of different purposes why someone might want a firearm. Mine was born out of curiosity. It's really what it was. My dad was a big war buff growing up, but we didn't have guns in the house. He was a former Marine. It might be shocking to some people that we didn't have firearms, but we just didn't. And it wasn't that he was anti-firearm, but so I had grown up seeing like war movies and stuff, and so I was always curious. And I think that I got to a point where I was so curious. I'm like, well, I'm going to learn a little bit more about this and go and shoot. So mine wasn't like I didn't feel like I needed protection at that time. Now I think I've surely benefited from it over the years, now that I do own firearms and I do train with them, and I feel I can protect myself and my property. So some people might have something going on in their life and they feel they need to protect themselves at that moment. And some people might be curious. Some people might want to get into hunting. There might be a lot of different purposes on why someone might want to own a firearm. Some people might just want to exercise their right. And
maybe you saw John Wick and you thought it was awesome and you want to buy a gun because of that. Whatever.
Well, and that brings us into your mental state. So, some people say, some real, ardent Second Amendment supporters are like, everyone should own a gun, everyone should carry a gun. Well, that's not necessarily true. Some people, for whatever reason, may not be in a good state mentally for making that decision, I think, because there could be people that have real anger issues and maybe some other types of instability.
Well, I think you just got to be honest with yourself, and that's difficult for a lot of people, but you really need to take a look at yourself and make sure that, hey, am I going to be able to handle this responsibility of a firearm? Am I going to be able to be safe with it? Am I going to do the right thing when the time comes? Or am I going to, protect myself from myself and make sure that these guns are locked up? You know what I mean? There are some people that they won't carry for a long time. They'll just keep them in the safe, and that's okay. I think we all agree that this is a choice. It's not something you are forced to do. This is a choice that you make, and that choice of whether or not you carry a firearm, whether or not you choose to defend yourself with one, that's something that you need to decide. And I think there's a lot of very, very hardcore gun guys out there that will just not agree with that. Oh, everybody needs a gun, like Jake said. Everybody needs a gun. Everybody should carry. No. You should decide for yourself. That's what freedom really is. I'm not going to force you into something. And the same thing should be said about the opposite. You're not going to force me, right? It's that simple.
And you make a good point there. It's not just mental state, but it's also, are you in a place, I guess, time in your life where you feel like you can take on this responsibility. I know some people that they have a lot of kids, and it's just something that they don't even want to explore at this time because of this.
Yeah, and that's okay. You know, I get asked all the time from people that are not big gun people that, hey, man, what do you think about having a gun in the house with kids? And I'm like, well, that's a decision you need to make for yourself in your home. You know, it's not my place to tell you what you should do. If you ask me what gun you should buy, I might be able to help, but I can't help you decide whether or not that a gun is right for you, you know?
And that brings us into safe storage. I mean, the big thing to take into consideration if you have, if you have just a significant other, if or if you have kids, if you have roommates. I mean, there's all kinds of factors there that you bring this, you bring this thing home that you're totally responsible for, and it's much different than bringing home a TV or a microwave. It's something that you're responsible for the ramifications of.
Well, it's like bringing home a chainsaw. If you do the wrong thing with it, you're gonna end up with a bad day, right? So you treat it with respect, and you understand the gravity of what can happen.
Well,
right?
It goes even a little farther than that, because there's some cities, states that have passed laws that require you to report a stolen firearm within a certain time period.
Well, and there's other states that have come up with safe storage laws as well. And so, anytime I think you're going to purchase a firearm, you need to look at all the laws, obviously federal, state, and local laws.
Yeah.
But, when it comes down to, responsibility, it's tough for me to tell anyone, because everybody has a very specific circumstance. Some people have kids, some people don't have kids. Some people might have a cousin who they feel is not mentally stable. They don't want that firearm around them. So everybody has a unique set of circumstances. But, owning a firearm is a certain level of responsibility, but I agree with what John said. I mean, I'm responsible for everything I bring in my home, whether or not it's a chainsaw, a firearm, a gallon of gas, poison, whatever it is. And while firearms do have the potential of being dangerous, they also have the benefit of protecting myself as well. But so many things that come in my home have the potential of being dangerous. So I think we have to always convey to people that there is a certain level of responsibility with firearms, but let's also not forget that let's not make it bigger than it is, because there are so many things we need to be responsible for. And if you've never been around guns, or it is your first step, and it might seem like a daunting thing, and the first time I bought a gun, it was too. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Where am I going to lock it up? What am I going to, how am I going to keep this away from bad guys that break into my house when I'm not home? And those are all things you do have to think about, but they're all things that tens of millions of people have conquered and do every day. So
what's funny? I kind of get that same vibe. Like, I got that the first time I went and bought a car. How am I going to take care of this? It was like the first big responsibility in my life, and it was okay. Once you just spend some time thinking about it, you're okay with it. And I totally agree with you. We should not make it this huge thing, because it's not ridiculous. It's just something you need to understand, and that's why we stress those points. It's something that needs to be understood.
Now, as Billy said earlier, there's state-specific laws and stuff going on here, and let me preference all this with saying we're not lawyers, attorneys, or anything like that, so you need to do your own research on all of this. Hopefully we can be, guideposts on the road to gun ownership for you guys.
He went that way.
So, people will have, Billy, you said your biggest knowledge of firearms at the time of buying your first gun was before you researched yourself and everything, it was from movies and stuff. So people have this preconceived notion that all guns have to be registered, and what does that involve? How do I do that? And like we're saying, there's a bunch of different states, and some states do require, quote unquote, some form of licensing registry, but for the most part, in the United States, you do not have to worry about that.
And there's plenty of places to find all that information for people. I mean, they can go to, the NRA's website. If some people, unfortunately, might not be comfortable with that, so they can typically, every agency in every state typically has a website devoted to what the firearm laws are for that state as well. And that's probably, you got to think if there's a website that kind of gathers it all, you are one step removed from the actual state. So if you really want to be sure, you need to go to that state website. You need to check out the laws. Call your sheriff's department. They're up on all the local laws if you do have any specific local laws. In Michigan, unfortunately, we have a pistol registry. So, the sheriff's department for every county is the one that handles that. So, you start at a local level, and don't be afraid to call your local law enforcement and ask them.
So, the permit to purchase or pistol permit, or in Illinois, it's FOID card. From what I could tell, there's about 12 states that have some form of card or permit that you have to have before you purchase a handgun. There's very few states that comes into play in long guns, maybe 2 or 3. But like Billy said, your state police are often a really good resource. Often they handle some part of the firearms purchasing background check system. There's sites called like handgunlaw.us. It focuses a little more on handgun carry, but also outlines some of the other laws. NRA does have a really good. The NRAILA.org has a really good resource outlining a lot of these requirements. But if you're in the free state of Pennsylvania, like John, he's like, what?
It's funny. I'll give a quick little anecdote here. So I was at a training event in Connecticut where the laws are kind of crappy, a little more strict than they are here, and we were kind of simulating a home invasion type thing, and we were using simunitions, basically paintballs, to defend ourselves in this situation. And the first question out of my mouth was, do I have to operate within the constraints of Connecticut law, or can I operate in Pennsylvania law? He goes, obviously, where you're from makes sense. So he goes, all right, here's the scenario. You go in, and there's somebody in your house at night. It's just you. Okay, guy I don't know that comes in my house, the scenario, I shot him. I just lit him up, no questions asked. And the other guys were like, "Oh, I was talking to the guy." No, not in Pennsylvania. Doesn't work that way.
So Pennsylvania law is, kill them all and let God sort out the rest.
No. Dude's in my house, at night, and I'm no. It doesn't work like that. But there are a lot of states that have these ridiculous laws, and they make you jump through hoops. But once you do, like the FOID card, the Firearms Owner ID card in Illinois is one of the most ridiculous ones, next to New Jersey, the FPIC. New Jersey actually requires you get that firearm purchaser identification card, and then they also require, I think it's an actual permit to purchase on top of that, and it only lasts for a certain amount of time.
Like a month or two.
Yeah, it's really, really stupid, but it's worth it. If you decide that you're living in one of these states that has a little bit stricter laws, just do it. If you're thinking about getting a gun and you're ready to make that step, go through it. It's really, really not that bad. We talk about it because it sucks. You want to enjoy your freedom, but in the grand scheme of life, it's nothing.
So, in the show notes, I have some links here to some of these states that have restrictions. You can read more up through the links. But let's get into where can I buy a gun? So maybe if I'm in Illinois, I got the FOID card, I got that. And that's really not that big of a deal. I don't know how these other states work, but Illinois, you can actually do that all online through the state police, and it's fairly quick. It's a couple weeks. You have to wait for it to come back, but generally, if you're a non-prohibitive individual, it's a piece of cake to get a FOID card in Illinois, and then you can buy not only a gun, but you can buy ammo then.
That. Oh man, when I found that out, so the first time I shot a Desert Eagle of all the guns was in Illinois. It was right outside of Chicago, and we went to buy ammo, and I went to buy it. I'm out of state. And I went to buy it. First of all, the ammo's all locked up. I'm like, what is going on here? Why am I being treated like this? And then the guy says, do you have a FOID card? I said, excuse me? I didn't know what it was. He's like, yeah, a FOID card. I'm like, yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania, bro. He's like, I can't sell you ammo. Is this America? What's going on here? But yeah, in some states they do require that for ammunition purchase.
That is my life. Every time I go to the store, I have to find someone to unlock the ammo case.
Jake,
buy ammo.
can you do you can't do mail order ammo and can you?
You
in
can.
Illinois?
You can if they take your FOID card first. You can do mail order.
Outside of Cook County, right?
Well, I don't know. Some of that was all struck down with the concealed carry law.
I didn't know if that was still a thing.
I'm not sure either. Anyways,
I think one thing for a first-time gun buyer, I honestly think probably the best place to probably go is a gun store, though,
Yeah.
Jake. I mean, we can talk about the different options. You can purchase online. Yes, it is legal. If people have heard of the news and they want to say, you don't have to do a background check, there is no internet loophole. Yes, you will have to do a background check when that gun arrives at your local gun shop. But I do believe probably the best place for a first-time gun buyer to go is to probably go to a range that is also a gun store, so they can shoot those firearms for the first time and decide what they'd like to purchase. I just think probably trying to navigate online by yourself or even a gun show might be a little intimidating for the first-time gun buyer. If you have a friend that owns guns, take them with you. I think that's a great resource to have with you. But I always vote for the gun shop.
And if you want to give yourself an education on safe gun handling skills and what not to do, you can go to the gun shop.
Yeah, gun stores are a lot more tame of an environment. There's a lot less going on. And I think it's important to concentrate on what you're doing and understanding how to handle the gun properly and all that within the confines of a gun store, especially a place where you can go and rent one and they can walk you through how to do it safely, shoot safely. That kind of stuff is awesome. I mean, the first time I ever shot a handgun was with a Marine, a former Marine buddy. I'm not a Marine, he was. He took me to the range and we were shooting some stuff, and I'm like, it was just a very big experience. And going to a place where you can try out a bunch of stuff, it was like we would shoot a box of ammo and be like, oh, let's go rent one of the other ones. Let's try a different thing. Let's try that. Let's try this. I think that is the best possible way for you to find what you actually enjoy and like and are good with.
Absolutely, and that's something, number 3 on the list here is Walmart/big box stores. While you can buy guns here, you're not going to get anywhere close to that level of expertise or, for the most part, education. A lot of these people working at big box stores don't know that much.
You know what I find out? Yeah, what I find at Walmart most often is I can never find anybody in the sporting goods department, and I typically have to go to the paint department to get someone to unlock the ammo cabinet, because every Walmart I've ever been to, the ammo's locked up. So I don't know if that's a corporate policy or what, because that's not normal in Michigan. You could typically go in a store and see ammo on a shelf. So I don't vote for the Walmart experience for your first time gun buying at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that for your first time at all. I think I've been buying guns for a long time now. I would never buy a gun at Walmart. I would just not do it. Like, there's the only gun thing I buy at Walmart is shotgun ammo because it's cheap. That's it.
And that's usually not locked up.
Right, it's not locked up.
The one thing they don't lock up, yeah.
So, Craigslist and Arms List. Now, some people may say, well, Craigslist, you can't do firearms and stuff on there. Well, yeah, true, maybe, but they still show up. But then Arms List is kind of the Craigslist for guns.
That's another thing that, we're talking about first-time buyers here. I wouldn't recommend buying a gun like that online unless it was something you went and tried out at a gun store and, maybe they didn't have it in stock, but they had a rental version or something like that, and you found one online. I think that's the only time it's really a viable option. I would never, ever, ever buy recommend buying the first gun online without seeing it or holding it in person. It's just not something that makes a lot of sense.
Well, now with those though, you're gonna see it in person because it's gonna be a face-to-face meet, and that might be of some concern.
It's the same as forums. Any local face-to-face thing. I don't think it's a good idea for your first time. I think you're better off going through it the traditional way and understanding that entire process before straying and kind of getting into something that's maybe, depending on the state you live in, a little more free of a transaction.
So I also have online in here. That would be like a Bud's Gun Shop type deal where you order it goes to your local FFL. Again, that's going to have to be up to you, I guess. John, you're not recommending that either.
Not for the first time. I mean, sure, you might find some smoking deal or something like that, and maybe that's like the only way to do it. I don't know. I just think that for an overall first-time experience, going to a gun store, going through the normal process of finding a gun, I think that's your best bet. But maybe somebody doesn't have super knowledgeable local gun store.
Well, I could see you living in a really rural area and just having like one or two local FFLs and not having the stuff.
And they're kitchen table FFLs,
Yeah, Billy, you have that issue.
I order. We do have a good local gun shop, but they don't carry a large inventory. So almost every gun I buy online and have it shipped to them, and then obviously I pay the transfer. And I don't have to do background checks because I have a concealed carry permit in Michigan, which is nice for anybody who might be buying their first time gun in Michigan. If you do have a concealed carry permit, you don't have to do the pistol permit requirement, the pre-purchase, and you don't have to do the background check at the time of purchase because you've already done it to get the concealed carry permit.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the process is easy. I can go in and pick up a gun and fill out the form and walk out relatively quickly. But we just don't have, I'm northern Michigan. We don't have, there's not a high inventory of firearms in stores here. And the guns that are in the stores here are typically hunting. They're hunting rifles, shotguns. You don't have a lot of handguns because we are a big hunting state. So I do order a lot online. Probably I would say 95% of my guns have been purchased online.
So last two bullet points real quick. Friends and relatives or the van down by the river? Probably not the van down by the river.
I would make sure to check the legality of the friends relatives transaction. Some states are now requiring that you go to a gun store to do the transaction. With a handgun, you have to in most states, I would say. I'm not sure. I think maybe Arizona you don't have to or something like that. But most states you would have to go to a gun store and just make sure you're doing it legal. And a lot of times if you're doing it that way, you may get a chance to go shoot the gun and then buy it from that person. That's cool. And a lot of times that's more relaxed, and you might find you really, really enjoy something that way. But
yeah. Absolutely. So transporting at home, some states may have casing requirements, even where you can place it in the vehicle. Like Illinois, it's supposed to be like the farthest most region of the vehicle away from the driver, so you can't possibly obtain it while you're driving. and there's also can be laws state specific to can ammo be near the gun? Does ammo have to be cased separately? What constitutes a case? Sometimes just a plastic bag constitutes a case. So you really need to figure out those details of your state and local laws.
And it's been a long time since I've had to worry about, the case storage because I've had a concealed carry permit since, honestly, 6 months after I shot my first gun. I went and, went through all the training. And part of the reason why obviously because I can carry concealed, but one of the major benefits to having a permit in certain states is that I don't have to be worried about the transportation of firearms. There's so many technicalities that you can get caught up with when transferring a firearm if you get pulled over, and you can make an honest mistake. By having that concealed carry permit, I basically protected myself against having a gun in the back seat that's loaded and not being charged with that. So there are other benefits to concealed carry permits outside of carrying concealed.
Yeah.
Jake, you there?
Yeah, I think we lost John for a second. So wrapping this up, he dropped out. You there, John?
I'm back.
All right, what were you going to say?
I think there are so many benefits to getting the concealed carry permit, license to carry a firearm, whatever they call it in your state. And a lot of states will actually, in order for you to get it, they'll make you do some kind of training where you will learn a few things about gun safety and all that. So that's not a bad idea, to go learn and get some prior education like we've talked about.
Just taking the NRA basic pistol course can, even though it's just super simple stuff to guys like us, it can really answer, almost hundreds of questions that brand new people may have.
Yeah, and another thing to consider that a lot of first-timers don't really know is that there are certain laws for interstate travel with firearms. In most cases, like here where I live, I'm 20 minutes from Maryland, I'm 20 minutes from Delaware, I'm half an hour from New Jersey. Like I'm down in the corner where I could get to a lot of different states and cross borders, even though I may not intend on doing that. So it's just you just need to be aware of the laws where you are, and most states are cool about interstate travel. And what I typically do, since I drive around an absolute crap ton for my job, what I end up doing is I'll put the guns all the way in the back of my SUV, and then I'll keep the ammo up further in the cab to keep them separate. Generally, if you do that, you are safe for interstate travel. Keeping them together is not a good idea when you're crossing state lines.
And last bullet point here is tucking it in at night. Bring it home. Make sure you have safe storage, some kind of a safe possibly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you live completely alone, that might be a different story. But for the most part, you're probably going to want some kind of gun safe.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you are going to get a gun safe, do your research, because there's a big difference between a good gun safe and a terrible gun safe.
Right, like the ones you can open with a paper clip or
a magnet. And a magnet, yeah. Search on YouTube how to open a safe with a magnet.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So next week, we're going to cover I want to shoot my first gun. I do believe Natalie Foster and Ebbs will be on next week.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So we're going to cover that, and we're going to cover some more basics of new gun ownership here on Gun Guy Radio. So we have, I don't know, let me first do final thoughts. Anything we might have left out here before we wrap up the main topic?
I would say, go ahead, John.
So I think the one thing I will say to anybody out there listening, if you have questions, for the love of all that is holy and good in this world, do not be afraid to message us. Do not be afraid to ask somebody that you know. Don't be afraid to call the gun store. Just ask those questions, because you may find out that your question wasn't that ridiculous. You weren't being dumb. You were just being honest. And that's the most important part of this, is don't be afraid to ask those questions. It's something you may not be sure about and you may not know.
Absolutely.
And I would also say, for people that aren't familiar with firearms or don't own a gun, one thing that you have to understand is, I would say most people that I encounter on a daily basis, I think you guys would probably agree with this, most gun owners are super excited to help first-time gun buyers out.
Yeah.
There's nothing we like more than to bring people into the Second Amendment community. And I think if you go to a gun store, you tell someone you don't own a gun, you're curious in it, you will find people that will spend hours with you trying to help you, trying to educate you, and trying to help you out and be a responsible gun owner. There's one thing about the Second Amendment community, is that despite what you might see in the media, despite what you might see on the news, this is a very inclusive community. We like to bring people into it, and we like to teach people to be responsible and enjoy firearms.
True.
Awesome points. Absolutely. So that wraps up the main topic. If you like what you hear, if you want to hear more, if you want your hand in supporting pro-gun radio like Gun Guy Radio, you can check out our Patreon campaign. I just revived it with a whole bunch of new perks. Patreon.com/gun. Patreon is just a way to kind of crowdfund every episode of shows like this, where you can pledge your support per episode for as little as $1 an episode. where you can get stickers, pledge $5 an episode. You can get Firearms Radio Network shirt or Gun Guy Radio patch. $8 an episode. You can hang out with us after the show a couple times a month. Also an $8 level that is a supply drop that has a bunch of goodies in it that could include, cleaning kits, range bags, cleaning mats, tactical flashlights, a bunch of stuff it could include depending on what's in it for that 3-month period. We send out the supply drops every 3 months. $10 is a patch a month club if you want a patch every month, or $12 is a T-shirt club for a T-shirt every month from patriotpatch.co, and a $15 level is a big box of swag and gear and stuff. So check it out, patreon.com/gun. Quick announcement: machine gun shoot here in the Pennsylvania area coming up the end of April 30th to May 1st at the Shooter's Gauntlet in Monroeton, PA. If you're within driving distance to that event, I hope to see you there. I'll be there. Patriot Patch Company will be there. Other Firearms Radio Network personalities will be there.
I'm going to be there, bro. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Billy, have you decided, are you going to be there yet?
I just found out I cannot be there, and I am so disappointed. My travel plans aren't going to work out, and I'm so bummed because I always, I see all the videos from all these machine gun shoots, and I'm like, I want to be there.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7-inning stretch time. We invite you to join in singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Patches, get your patches here. Patriot Patch Company has all your favorite flavors. Tactical, Western, sci-fi, pop culture, hot and ready. Don't forget to wash it down with a Pro Gun custom screen-printed t-shirt. Available in sizes medium to 5XL. They're great for any occasion. Patches, get your patches at patriotpatch.co.
If you need graphics design for your website business, if you need a new logo, anything like that, check out Ryan Cross at Hunter of Design, hunterofdesign.com. If you need to, rebrand your business, if you have a brand new business that you need some kick butt artwork or branding for, Ryan Cross can help you out. hunterofdesign.com. So, John, real quick, where can people connect with you online?
So what you can do, and I'm going to make this really simple for those of you that are maybe new to the internet, new to guns. So you go onto your phone, you get onto the Google, and you type in The Gun Collective, and you will find me. I promise. So what the Gun Collective is basically a kind of a fresh look at firearms from a slightly different angle. There's a lot of, not so truthful gun media out there, and I kind of try to cut the crap. So it's snarky, it's fast-paced, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely check out the Gun Collective, check out TGC News. It's a show that airs every Monday at, sometime in the evening, whenever I get it done, basically. And, it's a lot of fun, guys. So definitely check out the Gun Collective all over the place.
And Billy, where can people connect with you and Boxer Tactical?
You can, like Don said, you could go to the Google box. You can type in Boxer Tactical. Our website will come up. You can also email me at billy@boxertactical.com. Or you can also Google Amidst the Noise, and I will pop up all over the place as well, although there'll probably be a lot of hate associated with it too. So probably best to reach out to billy@boxertactical.com.
Well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys helping out this week.
It's fun, man.
Remember to subscribe to the show on iTunes or however you listen via podcasts. Leave us a review, whichever app you use. Please consider joining the NRA and Second Amendment Foundation. Both of those do great things for our gun rights. And don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows on the Firearms Radio Network, firearmsradio.tv, and shop with our Amazon affiliate link. It supports pro-gun radio, like Gun Guy Radio. firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. You can bookmark that. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you, John.
Hey, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it, man.
We'll see you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Now, to tell you the truth, I kind of forgot in all this excitement. But being this is the Guns of Hollywood podcast on the most popular pro-gun podcast network in the world and will blow your eardrums clean out, you've got to ask yourself a question. Have you subscribed yet? Well, have you, punk? GunsOfHollywood.com or search Guns of Hollywood on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher app. Punk.